Ladies and gentlemen, Vidyaniketan Group of Institutions welcomes you to yet another season of India Insight. Envisioned by Mrs. Prema Rajagopal, the founder of this institution, way back in 2004, the objective ever since has been to enhance the knowledge of India and appreciate the diverse culture of this nation. As our young children take part from various corners of the world, over the last couple of years in the digital avatar, this contest has reached over 20,000 students across 10 countries. We at the Vidyaniketan Group of Institutions truly appreciate and acknowledge the support and patronage given to us by all the participating schools, their teachers and managements. Before we begin, it is our pleasure and privilege to invite a leader in school education, a person who's a strong advocate of co-scholastic learning. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dean Academics at Vidyaniketan, Miss Sumitra Raghavan.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. India Insight brought to you by Vidyaniketan Public School, Ullal, Bangalore, was and remains the dream child of the founders of the school. It began as a quiz competition, but now a debating contest for senior students and a drawing contest for primary students have been added over the last 2 years. As the name itself suggests, the topics revolve around India and the giant strides that our country has made in the last 75 years. This year, the students will be talking on Vibrant India, and as the contest winds its way from the prelims to the finals, exciting topics and modes of debating will be highlighted. Wishing you, all the participants, all the best on this journey of a war of words. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's my privilege to introduce our host for the day. Rashmi is currently Asia's only professional lady quiz host. An alumnus of the prestigious NITK Surathkal and IIM Calcutta, she has hosted close to 1,000 shows across India, Singapore, and several countries across the Middle East. She is the only woman to have been invited to host a quiz at Kuwait for the last 5 years. She was recognized by Business World as 40 under 40 as a personality from India to reckon with. She was the winner of the Quiz Host of the Year 2022 by SMX Leadership Summit. She's been part of this quiz for many years, as she has been part of several quizzes such as Tata Crucible, the Union Bank Quiz, the Rural IT Quiz, TCS Inquisitive, just to name a few. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get started. Time to welcome your host, Miss Rashmi Furtado.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the world finale of India Inside Debate Young India Speaks 2023, a creation by the Vidyaniketan Group of Institutions. This was actually the vision of their founder principal, Mrs. Prema Rajagopal, and India Insight started as a quiz way back in 2004, and then it has evolved to be a quiz, a debate, and a drawing contest. All of them, of course, spanning all through the age groups of students in the school. The vision of their founder principal was about having the students of our country more aware and having them being proud of our country's heritage. And that is why India Inside is a small little step to realize that vision and that dream of hers. So I hope all of you have watched the semi-finals of the Young India Speaks debate. If not, I would urge you all to go back and watch the journey of all of our finalists who have joined us here today for the world finale. Believe me, the kind of perspectives they've brought to the table, you will be in disbelief when I tell you what their ages are. So let me quickly introduce them to you, and then let's get started with this debate. Among our finalists, our first finalist for the day, representing the Wisdom World School, Pune, is Shruti Nabar. Shruti is in grade 10. Moving on to Trivandrum, representing St. Thomas Residential School, is Siddharth. Siddharth also from grade 10. Moving on to our next finalist here today, representing the Wisdom World School, Pune again, is Shrutik Jana. Shrutik is also in grade 10, and completing the lineup for us here today is Bhumika Sharma, representing the Sunbeam School, Lahartara, Varanasi. Bhumika is in grade 12. All right, so these are our finalists here today. We also have a stellar jury panel with us here today. We have Ms. Marina D'Souza and Mr. Amit Trivedi, both of them with a huge experience in their respective fields. I'll, of course, get to their introduction a little later, but for now, let's get started with this world finale of India Inside Debate Young India Speaks 2023. The first round, point of view. Here we go. In this round, there would be about 6 topics that will be displayed on the screen. Our finalists have to choose one topic and speak on that topic for a minute. The finalists cannot repeat the topic that has already been spoken by someone else in the group. So they need to choose unique topics, which is why we have 6 in total. So they're not left with the same topic again, or they're not forced to pick the last one remaining. So let's take a look at the topics coming up on your screen. All right. Interesting topics there is Women's Premier League, a defining moment for women in sports across India. Innovation should be made a compulsory subject in schools. Are higher fines and punishment a way to bring discipline in our country? A 5-year ban on cricket will help other sports grow. Will the entry of foreign universities in India increase the standard of education in our country? Politics and governance should be made a compulsory subject in our schools. Ladies and gentlemen, these topics may seem a little too high for the students of classes 10 and 12, but believe me, when you listen to them, you're going to agree with me that they will have extremely good point of views on all of these topics. So let's get started. We'll start with Shruti. Shruti, which topic would you like to speak on?
The second one, ma'am. Innovation should be made a compulsory subject in schools.
All right. So Shruti will be speaking on innovation should be made a compulsory subject in school. You have a minute's time, Shruti. Please stick to the minute that has been given to you. Your time starting now.
Shark Tank India has taught us that Jugaad flows through Indian veins. So much so that the word is now a part of the Oxford Dictionary. With innovation as a compulsory subject in our schools, we can teach students to translate their innovative ideas into a working model and seek funding to make it a marketable reality, a key for startups. Schools should learn from competitions like India Insight and the Accenture Innovation Challenge and encourage students to think critically and research, not just as an extracurricular, but as a building block for the rest of their lives. They can do this by integrating project-based learning into their curriculum. The Gokhale Institute of Politics and Economics, through its Knowledge College Village program, has enabled students to create a water plan for the drought-prone regions of Maharashtra. This is just an example of how innovation as a subject can be used by students to channel their ideas to create new, practical solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Shruti. Great point of view there. Let's move on to Siddharth. Siddharth, what topic would you like to speak on?
I would like to choose the third topic: are higher fines and punishment a way to bring discipline in the country?
All right, a very interesting topic indeed. So, Siddharth would be speaking on this for a minute. Siddharth, your minute's time starting now.
Since 2019, when the Central Motor Vehicle Act amendments increased the penalty for traffic violations, though the fines collected increased nearly 450%, there has been barely a 3% decline in road deaths during this period, thus proving that higher fines and punishment are not an effective way to deter crimes and bring discipline in our country. Effective deterrence in a society hinges on the certainty of apprehension rather than the severity of punishment, as underscored by robust criminological research. More severe punishments also tend to create more indiscipline, as prison sentences have shown to exacerbate recidivism. Higher fines will also enable the rich to get away with their offences by paying a higher fine or by bribing the officials, while the underprivileged shall remain at the receiving end of these crimes. Therefore, let us bring about discipline in our country through awareness creation, removal of corruption, higher levels of police visibility, and ensuring a fair and expeditious legal process. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Siddharth. Let's move on to our next contestant, Shrutik. What topic would you like to speak on?
The fourth one, a 5-year ban on cricket will help other sports grow.
All right, a 5-year ban on cricket will help other sports grow. I'm sure I will receive some messages on social media only for putting up this topic. But Shrutik, you have a minute's time on the topic. Your time starting now.
Cricket in India is a religion. It overshadows many other sports entirely, as though they don't even exist. The funds allocated towards cricket are exponentially more than those for other sports. This causes a vicious cycle where these sports can't show much success and thus don't become popular. If you ask a boy on the road today what India's national sport is, they'll probably say cricket. This is how hooked our entire nation is to cricket. A nation of over 1 billion, proud of its diversity, and yet in sports, we care for only one. In the past few years, we have seen time and time again just how much we can do in other sports as well. Weightlifting, wrestling, track and field, everything. These will develop in the nation only if given due importance. And this will come if only a 5-year ban on cricket is in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Shrutik. All right. You too will get some messages on your social media or on your phone for sure. Let's move on. Bhumika, it's your turn. Which topic would you like to speak on?
Ma'am, the last one. Politics and governance should be made compulsory subjects in school.
Okay. All right. Bhumika, you have a minute's time. Please get started.
Thank you, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, the very debate that we're a part of today is called Young India Speaks, right? So every participant in this room right now is a young leader of tomorrow. So maybe a Bhumika, Shruti, Siddharth or a Shrutik might actually become the next Prime Minister of the country. But if I want to ask you a very basic question as to how many of us have a basic knowledge of what politics is or what governance is, I'm sure we are going to come back with disheartening results. And this is exactly why politics and governance should be made a compulsory subject in our school. Ladies and gentlemen, I do not have to give you proper examples of paid leadership in our countries. We have seen leaders and politicians passing shameful comments and doing absolutely nothing for the welfare of the country. We have also seen Parliament becoming nothing less than a circus. What is it? It is a severe and a genuine lack of education. So what do we plan on doing? Young adults, they go on a training program before they join the political arena? Of course not. Well, this is the age where we have to teach our young leaders, our future leaders, the future policy makers about the basic whys and hows of what is politics, what constitutes a government. The scope of this debate is not only limited to what young adults or young leaders have to do. It is also about how beautiful of a state or a country it might be, where every citizen is very well educated with the basic essence of politics and government. Think about the implementation of policies. Think about the sympathy towards the government. The said government in this question will also be the beneficiary of this program. Panelists, sometimes this heartens me to know that all of us might actually remember that hypotenuse square is height square plus base square. But most of us would forget that if India is a coming together federation or a holding together federation. We do not even know the basic difference between federalism and quasi-federalism. Well, these are the exact reasons why we must and we should make politics and governance a compulsory subject in our schools. With this, thank you.
Thank you, Bhumika. Ladies and gentlemen, the future of our country, speaking on topics that will shape their future. I hope all of you have heard them out very carefully because I thought they had some very interesting points of view here. Let's move on to our next round, ladies and gentlemen. Heads and tails. Here we go. An interesting round again for all of our contestants here today. They would be given one topic. And on that topic, each of them will speak for a minute. The twist, though, is that they will speak 1 point for the topic and 1 point against the topic. So I hope all of our contestants are ready and well prepared on this. Let's take a look at the topic before we get started. One nation, one election. Is this practical? All right, so contestants, I hope you have understood the round. 1 minute is what you get as a whole. 1 point for the topic, 1 point against the topic, both within that minute's time. Okay? Good luck to all of you. Bhumika, will start with you this time. You get your minute's time starting now. Go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. The motion at hand today is one nation and one election. And first of all, let us look at the positives of this motion. India, as a country which is so large in population and is still a developing economy before it touched the mark of 100 years, we have already spent a huge sum of our money on these general elections. Just to quote, in 2019, the general elections estimated around $7 billion. Now, here's the deal. Imagine a world where every state assembly elections is parallel to what general elections are, or are combined or clubbed together. Don't you think it would be much more cost efficient and effective in general for the general public of India to come up onto a polling booth and vote on the very same day, not only for the state assembly, but for the prime minister of the country as well? Well, this is the first and the most crucial benefit of one nation and one election. It is the efficiency that brings it to not only to the said government in the question, but also to the citizens of the country. Panel, let's flip the coin. Let's look at the other side of the house. What is the other side of the house? Is one nation and one election actually feasible for a country like ours? Well, I don't think so. I remember mentioning it in my speeches as to how India practices quasi-federalism. That is, the state and the central relationship, it is the center that enjoys a lot more power than the state does. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is basically hampering the very essence of what this federalism is. So, in a world like ours, where state assembly elections are the most crucial time for the general public to bring in the topics of dissent, to bring in the problems that they are suffering, to bring in the regional disparity, to talk about the problems of the state, when you club these elections together, what you simply do is you paint a bigger picture, but you often forget the minor details of what the other state looks like. Ladies and gentlemen, India is a holding together federation, right? We are a union of states. And if you do not listen to what the state has to offer and only focus on what the center has to do, you ultimately generate or give the entire power to the center. This brings me to the point that this disintegrates the entire federal structure of our country. Thus, the very idea of one nation, one election does not stand true or beneficial for me. With this, I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhumika. Let's move on to our next finalist here today. Shrutik, it's your turn. Your minute's time starting now.
One nation, one election was a revolutionary reform suggested by the government. In support of this reform, I would like to mention how the politics in our nation directly affects development. Now, what I mean by that is that a lot of development and welfare is done at times just before the election, at different times in different parts of the country. This leads to unequal development in different areas and does not allow coordination in programs between different states. With one nation, one election, such development could be done on a large scale, which would impact the entire country positively. On the other hand, the very idea of one nation, one election goes against the contents of the constitution in various places, and frankly speaking, will be too big of a logistical challenge to undertake all at once. Thank you.
Thank you, Shrutik. Let's move on to Siddharth. Siddharth, it's your turn. You have a minute's time on this. Please go ahead.
$8 billion. That is the amount spent for the last Lok Sabha elections. A country like India can ill afford this, not to mention the delay in policy implementations that frequent elections result in. Also, for a thriving democracy, what voter turnout in elections is hugely important, and studies show that when multiple elections occur simultaneously, voter turnout improves by 8 to 10%. Hence, the one nation, one election concept is the practical solution for India. Really? Do you know that one nation, one election can severely undermine the very fabric of our federal structure? If there is a premature dissolution of the Lok Sabha, it is not practical to dissolve all state assemblies. It has been shown that when there are simultaneous elections to both the center and the state, there shall be voter congruence, and voters will shift to whichever election they consider salient, thus destroying the very essence of democracy. Holding separate elections shall hold politicians accountable and focus on local, regional, and national issues, which may vary widely in a country as diverse as India. Thank you.
Interesting point of view. Shruti will complete this round with you. You have a minute's time on the topic. Please go ahead.
One nation, one election is to simultaneously hold the general election and elections to the state legislatures. The biggest point to support this is our election history. This was done for 20 years post-independence until 1968, when early dissolution caused the dates to spread apart. This should have been an exception, not the rule for future elections. It's practical because we are not reinventing the wheel, only attempting to save over 1,000 crores that can be used for the betterment of our country. We've done it before. Why can't we do it again? A major point against one nation, one election is our population. From 26 crore voters in 1968 to 94.5 crore voters in 2019, all these people need to be kept safe during elections. The scale of law enforcement deployment actually required is unattainable. A democracy is nothing without free and fair elections. Why compromise the essence of our democracy? Thank you.
Thank you, Shruti. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been watching the world finale of India Inside Debate Young India Speaks 2023. You have been listening to our finalists, and let me tell you, if this is how they are speaking now, you must see their journey as well. You must go and watch the semi-finals from where they have won and they have reached this world finale here today. But for now, let's move on to the next round of our debate finale. Your perspective. Here we go. All right, another interesting topic coming up on your screen on this round. All major rivers of India must be linked. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have taken a look at all the topics that we've given so far, we try and cover almost each and every aspect that is concerned with the growth and future of our nation. And all we want to know is the views of our young Indians. And I think they have some great perspectives to put forward. Let's see what they have to speak on this particular topic. In this round, each of them will speak for a minute. And after that, the floor would be open for 6 minutes of debate. I hope all of you have understood how the round works. 1 minute for each of you to speak and then 6 minutes of debate. I will not intervene or moderate the debate at all. It's completely up to you. We would be happy and we would encourage you to arrive at a consensus towards the end of the debate. However, if you are not able to do so, we will not hold that against you. All right, so good luck to all of you. Let's get started with this round. Shruti will get started with you. You have a minute's topic on the. You have a minute's time on the topic. Please go ahead.
5.6 lakh crores. The estimated cost of interlinking major if the land is infertile to begin with. Long-standing issues like the Kaveri water dispute and the Chambal River dispute need consideration. Internationally, can you estimate the escalation in India-China tensions if the Brahmaputra was linked? When proven options like watershed development and rainwater harvesting have not even been fully explored and implemented, why undertake is going to impact the fertility of the surrounding soil, causing waterlogging, alkalinity, and land and water pollution from construction. Irrigation isn't going to help any farmer if the land isn't fertile to begin with. Long standing issues like the Kaveri water dispute and the Chambal River dispute need consideration. Internationally, can you estimate the escalation in India China tensions if the Brahmaputra was linked? When proven options like watershed development and rainwater harvesting have not even been fully explored and implemented, why undertake this risky, expensive, and impractical operation? Thank you.
Thank you, Shruti. Let's move on to Siddharth. Siddharth, you have a minute's time on this. Please go ahead.
Take from where there is surplus and distribute where there is deficit. Seems like a fair and just way for water management, especially in India, where floods and droughts both affect lives and livelihoods. The interlinking of rivers program is expected to give benefits of 35 million hectares of irrigation, generate 34,000 megawatt of hydropower, and aid better pollution control. But one must take a more long-term view. Is this really a sustainable solution or just a band-aid for our water management problems? It can be socially and ecologically disruptive proposition that can not only have huge adverse impacts on land, forests, biodiversity, and rivers, but also affect the livelihood of millions of people. The solution to effectively managing our water resources may lie not in large storage dams and diversion of rivers, but rather in groundwater aquifers, stringent control of polluting industries, and water efficient agriculture techniques. We must think carefully about long term second order effects before embarking on this path of no return. After all, planned growth is progress, but unplanned growth is cancer. Thank you.
Thank you, Siddharth. Let's move on to Shrutik. Shrutik, your minute's time on the topic starting now.
It is imperative that we understand just how dire the situation is in some drought affected areas. We aren't talking about water for water parks in these areas. We are talking about water for their survival. Areas that are severely affected by droughts can be supplied water from areas that witness heavy flooding. This system would prove to be greatly beneficial in the long run, an investment for our future. Or is it really? When we look at the negatives that it offers, we see environmental complications. It causes death of marine life, destroys aquatic habitats, and changes river flows, which all have negative geographical impacts as well. Not only the environment, millions of people will also suffer in the process of linking these rivers, displaced from their traditional lives. Moreover, these projects will take huge amounts of funds which our nation desperately needs in all other fields of development, like education and rural development. Moreover, the project was started in 2003, and since then, only two rivers have been linked. Is it really worth it then? Thank you.
Thank you, Shrutik. Bhumika, you would be completing this for us. You have a minute's time on the topic. Please go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. You can solve or take away the sorrow of Bengal while also solving the annual flooding problems in the Ganga and the Brahmaputra plains, but also ensuring that a large population of our country is not only dependent on the uncertain monsoon rains for their agricultural activities, but such are the diverse and the wide-ranging impacts of interlinking or interconnecting all major rivers of India. Panel, we must understand that this debate is not only limited to the ecological effects of this action. We must also look into the economics. Panel, the said project offers more than the investment involved in it. The estimated budget of 5.6 lakh crores might escalate. We do not disagree on that. It might. But panel, what are the other advantages of it? It has been mentioned in the other speeches that around 15,000 kilometers of canal transportation will be improved. We would have around 3,000 storage tanks, 87 million acres of irrigated land in India. And more than that, panel, India is an agrarian economy. We have been an independent economy for around 77 years now, and we have been an agrarian economy. Around 58% of people in India are still dependent on agriculture for their livelihood. But what is the percentage of the GDP that they contribute to? Only 18%. And one of the prime reasons why we are not able to have productivity in the agricultural sector, it is the irrigation problem. Now, irrigation is one of the most essential problems that the farmers in India are facing right now, and eventually leads them into the debt trap. And this particular solution right here on our screen is a major landmark, would be a major decision or a landmark decision in solving those problems. And as I truly believe, it is the time now that we connect and interlink all the major rivers in our country. Thank you.
All right, so we've heard them out, and it's now time for them to debate on this topic. Finalists, remember, 6 minutes is what you get. I request you to stick to the timeline of 6 minutes. All right, the floor is open. You may begin.
All right, so I think in the course of this debate, I think I understood a few perspectives. Before I begin, I think I would like to ask particularly Siddharth. Siddharth, do you support this or not? Because I'm so sorry, in the course of your speech, I could not very clearly make it out if you do support the cause or not. Because that's
I
where the
very
debate stands.
no. I stand against interlinking of rivers.
All right. So in this debate, we see all the people. So I think the three major issues which would be coming forward are the economic investments required in this project. Second is the ecological imbalance it might create due to the deforestation and things. And the last impact is, or the last major argument, which I think would be a part of this debate, is the displacement of people. Now, before I even start, I think all of us would agree, and this goes without even saying, that all of these things are actually happening in the world right now, right? We are seeing deforestation, we have seen people being displaced due to war, due to construction of dams, due to other economic activities, and we have also seen huge investments in our country. For example, the elections which we have just debated and dwelled upon. So budget is not a concern, money is not a concern. I mean, monetary causes are definitely a concern, but what it does offers to our country is much greater and better than that. Secondly, if you talk about the displacement it causes, I know there are around 5 lakh 80,000 people which might be displaced in this process, but I think genuine and serious compensations from the government end can actually be feasible for that. For
I mean,
example, let us take
like,
the
a lot of the points that you have just said, like all of this is already happening, whether it be deforestation or displacement of people. Like, just because it's happening in the world doesn't mean that you have to actively take steps to make it worse. And about the compensation for the people who are already been displaced, unfortunately, in today's society, the process of getting these reparations for the people who have already been displaced is a very long and unfortunately very flawed process as well. And you cannot ask somebody to just move from one place to another, completely sacrifice their way of living, and then just give them some money so as to give them a better life.
Exactly.
And
I would
what
like to add a point here. An important point here is that also these people don't need to be displaced. There are other proven methods to improve the irrigation facilities in India that cost far, far less than this proposed linking project and will lead to far fewer people being displaced. There
Yeah,
are
we
other
should,
options. Instead of
we should
investing heavily in just one, we must exhaust every other option available before we even think about making such a huge investment onto something that may not even be a long term solution for our irrigation issues.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many much more viable options that we have that our nation hasn't even tried to implement yet. And we could try those first. And then, as a last minute option, if nothing else seems to work for some reason, then maybe we could think about this project. But I don't think that this is something that the nation needs right now as a priority.
All right. Okay. So through three different speeches from three brilliant speakers, what I make right now is that we are not gonna displace people. We still have a lot of time. For example, like let's just say in 2047, we are about to be 100 years old, and we are still going to contribute 18% of our economy. But 58% of our people still dependent on agriculture, and then we dream about the India, which is a developed nation. We also dream about hosting a lot of international events because we want to establish our geopolitical presence in the entire world. But what we are going to do is we're going to wait for the other viable options to come
Oh, I'm
forward
sorry.
and do
I
this.
don't I don't think any country ever became a developed nation out of agriculture. My point is that
Yeah,
we are heavily invested in agriculture, and we have many more methods to improve our agriculture before we take on such a large project. We have many other things that we also need to undertake right now.
like I agree with that, but then another point is that does it actually help improve agriculture even when implemented? That also is a major question, because several studies, including a study by Nature Communications, have shown that interlinking of rivers is not the solution for water stress, because all of these water cycles depend on the land as well as the water. So these hydrolinking projects are globally altering monsoon cycles even now already, and disturbing complex hydrometeorological systems, like which always like worsen the water stress across the country. And so the interlinking projects become ineffective or even counterproductive to the agrarian economy that India has right
What
now.
we really need at this point in time is actually an improvement in our agricultural methods. The reason so many farmers in our country are suffering is because they don't have access to better facilities of irrigation, and they're still using extremely outdated practices such as the excessive water that sugarcane requires, when we could instead be using more local native crops that require a less amount of water. So instead, what I would like to propose is, instead of the huge investment we are putting into this water linking project, we should instead put this into improving the agricultural facilities available to farmers so that they don't need this much irrigation.
Right, I
Point
agree
taken.
with that.
So we have
Yes.
to point taken. Yeah, okay, so we have done a lot in the agriculture. I do believe no economy in particular can grow from agriculture sector alone. It is proven that it has to be the tertiary sector, which takes away the cake for a country to be a developed economy. I do agree on that, and that is exactly why we have to work on our agriculture so that we are said and done in that sector, and we can
Yes.
focus on the secondary or the tertiary sector.
But,
Talking
but
about
that's not
how we
made to
should
work.
not produce.
Interlinking of rivers is not the way that agriculture needs to be developed. Better quality of seeds, better irrigation, adoption of Western practices and automation, which is already
But that is
prevalent in the
already done.
developed economies of the world. That is not there in India. Unfortunately, that is not. The level of implementation of these advanced techniques, if it can be sufficiently brought down to the grassroots of India, can sufficiently increase the amount of food that is being produced for the same cost, and including lesser manpower and labor that is required. So food security is already there. Another thing is the food wastage. All the processes that we follow in India today are extremely inefficient. India wastes food that is enough to feed Australia. Unfortunately, that's the reality, and that is what we need to change. We are producing enough food. What we need is adoption of modern techniques, less water and less activities that are water intensive, and we also have to make sure that even in our current processes, all the efficiencies that we have should be eliminated, so as to ensure that all the food that is being produced reaches the people of India or is available for export. That is what we need to do to improve the agrarian economy.
See
Okay.
this.
So, Banner, in our side of the world, we already have had Grains Revolution, which talked about the use of HYV seeds and pesticides and fertilizer, which, for the information of the house, are known for using less, are known for producing more by using by using more irrigation or more water, right? So the idea that you propose that the techniques which would require less irrigation and produce more, or the very idea that we should not produce crops which require a lot of water, for example, sugarcane, which by the way is a commercial crop, is directly harmful for the economy of the country. I also agree on this, that we have food security. It is very
Finalists, you have a
evident by
minute's
the fact
time
that we are
left.
the exporters of wheat and rice. But the debate here is about, we should connect these rivers or not. I do understand there's a lot of economic stress in the economy. I do understand there's a ecological problem that might arise out of it. But the time is now. It is 2023. Let's stop living in rainbows and unicorns, and let's agree economics is real. And the benefits of this motion given at hand is definitely real. With this, I truly believe it is the need of the hour for us to interlink these rivers.
No, see, you yourself said it's 2023, and now people are realizing just how important it is to save the environment, because without the earth that we live on, we have nothing. And if we take even more active steps to further destroy the environment, then what kind of future are we really even looking at if we really don't have a planet to live on? So these projects that are actively impacting the environment, I don't think they should be undertaken just for our development.
I completely agree with that. Like, even if you look at the past, let's look at the Ken Betwa project, which has already received environmental approval. It will submerge 40% of the Panna tiger reserve, which is home to like several species of endangered vultures, gharials, leopards, and sloth bears. And loss of scavengers like vultures can lead to a health emergency. And we all know how
And
the
I
last
feel
one turned out to be.
loss of
over the loss of people. I mean, the loss of wildlife is extremely important, but we are talking about people's livelihoods and homes here. I feel like we've really glossed over truly how many people are going to be displaced from their homes. Just the construction of the Narmada Dam alone has been displacing people for decades. We're talking about the construction of simultaneous rivers, simultaneous reservoirs, canals, and dams. This is going to displace a huge amount of people. And the question is, where will they go? Our cities are extremely overcrowded, and we are having a huge problem constructing more infrastructure to house people. So, if we are uprooting these people from the lives they've lived for so long, where are we going to send them?
And to what extent is it fair to just uproot them from their lives and then offer them money
Finalists, your
to
time is
just
up.
live
Your
with them?
time is up. You're way over the 6-minute mark. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been watching the world finale of the India Inside Debate Young India Speaks. Let's move on to the next round or the final round of our world finale here today, jury time. Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, like I told you in the very beginning, we have a stellar panel of jury for the world finale of this debate here today. Let me introduce them to you and then get started with this round. Our first jury member here today joining us is Ms. Marina D'Souza. She is a senior HR professional with over 25 years of work experience in various aspects of HR, like creating end-to-end solutions in the areas of strategic crisis and security, formulating HR strategies and HR standards, and so on. She has worked with different organizations like the Ashok Piramal Group, Volkswagen Finance, Chain IQ, and is currently the Chief Manager for HRM and People Services at Skoda. She is an alumna of XLRA Jamshedpur, where she has completed an executive program in HR. She is also an MA in English Literature. She's visited several countries like Germany, Dubai, and Switzerland, and she loves music and has a blog on experimentation with cooking and blogging. Experimentation on cooking and baking. I wonder how she finds the time to do all of this, but she does. Marina, thank you so much for joining us here today. Our second jury member is Mr. Amit Trivedi. He is the co-founder of OSAT Knowledge, a financial literacy organization. He has more than 30 years of professional experience in capital markets. He has delivered over 1,600 workshops for employees of regulatory bodies, insurance companies, banks, and distribution firms, students, and general public. He is an author who writes regularly on mainstream media, and he's also authored many books like Money Wise Perspectives for Women, a book on financial literacy specifically for women, Invest Stories, Immunize Your Financial Health, and so on. He has been on examination committee of several certification programs. He's also won several awards like India's 25 Best Finance Teachers 2021 by Association of International Wealth Management of India and the inaugural Guru Gaurav Puraskar at the Artha Mitra, and so on. Amit, thank you so much for joining us here today. Well, so you have heard them out for 3 rounds now. They had some very interesting perspectives. So I would request each of you to speak to 2 unique finalists and to try and restrict to 1 question, unless, of course, there is something that you must address. So, Marina, would you like to get started?
Okay, I have chosen Shruti
Please go ahead.
as one of the contestants for me to ask the question. Shruti, I like the way you articulated your point of views and your perspectives on various topics. You sound very sorted to me. However, one thing which I wrote down when you were speaking, you spoke about Jugaad in your first, point of view when you had expressed. How do you relate Jugaad, or basically it's hustling? Yeah, it's hustling. The literal meaning is hustling. How do you relate Jugaad or hustling to innovation?
Thank you so much for your question, ma'am. Well, Jugaad, the key principle is doing more with less money, which honestly is where a lot of innovation comes from because necessity is indeed the mother of invention. And so it's sort of in our Indian veins where if we see a cheaper option or something we can buy for lesser, we'll automatically go for the cheaper option. Or if we want to innovate and do a certain task or fix a certain problem for a smaller amount of money, we'll do so, and that leads to a lot of innovation. And I feel like by having innovation as a compulsory subject in our schools, we can sort of challenge this inherent trait of our Indian students into improving our country through their practical solutions. For example, I have a friend who did one of these Accenture innovation challenges, and so she solved the problem of a lot of fake IDs on social media by confirming it with a government ID. And so I feel that we could channel the creative ideas of a lot more students and their Jugaad policies if we had innovation as a compulsory subject in our schools. Thank you.
That's nice. That's very nice to know. My second question would go to Shrutik. Shrutik, what is your favorite sport?
I play football.
Football. Okay. Because you said banned cricket. I just wanted to know why did you choose this topic?
So personally, I have always been a little envious as a football player of the same that we have for cricket in India. And I've always felt that football in India is something that is quite popular, especially in the Northeast. And the we are not too bad at it. And I believe that with the proper funding and with the proper support, proper infrastructure, we could really do something for football. And when we talk about these sports, it's not only football. We have so many sports where we have one athlete per sport who is doing well. They have overcome all odds. So I believe we should look at their success and we should realize that there are athletes who are willing to work hard if given the proper support and the infrastructure. We can really succeed at these international events like the Olympics and Commonwealth Games.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Shruti and Shrutik. Thank you, Marina. Well, Shrutik, there is ISL now, so I guess football is starting to do better than it was before. All right, let's move on to Amit. Amit, whom would you like to speak with first?
Yeah, I'll go to Siddharth first.
Please.
Yeah, so Siddharth, you mentioned some statistics about the number of accidents have not come down since 2019, even after the fines have been increased. So, do you attribute it to ineffectiveness of higher fines or lack of implementation of the rule?
Sir, I actually attribute it to the fact that the implementation of the rule specifically, like not that of the higher fines, but of the if there's a specific violation, the chance that the violation is caught, I attribute it like the lack of efficiency in that is what I attribute it to, not to the lack of implementation of higher fines. Because even if there is higher fines, unfortunately, like when you ride a bike, you're not aware of the fine that you get when you're speeding at a particular limit, when you make a U-turn when you're not supposed to. What you know is that the chance of whether the police car is waiting in the back or not. That's what makes you to decide whether you want to do something illegal or not. And so I believe what we need to do is increase the amount of surveillance that we have so as to catch these violations a lot more efficiently. And also another thing that I attribute this to is the corruption that we have in India. Like corruption leads to people getting licenses when they are not supposed to, and obviously even if they are caught once, they can easily bribe the police officer and to get away. And so this leads to them thinking that these offenses are just casual and they don't give any importance to the actual damage that these can do. And so these two things are what has to stop. Number one is that even when these violations happen, they are often not caught. And the number two is the corruption of the police officers and people involved in law enforcement. These two things are the main factors of why it has not been effective.
Thanks. Just a follow-up to that. That's why your topic was fines and punishment both.
Yes.
Right? So punishment is part of the implementation. So whereas you actually were against the whole thing of higher fines and punishment. So can I just understand that?
Sir, it's not about the punishment that you receive, it's about getting caught. Like, only if you get caught can you get the fine or the punishment. And so I'm telling that instead of increasing the fine or the punishments that we get, we try to increase the probability of getting caught so that the person can receive the fine or the punishment. That's what
Okay.
I'm aiming at. And
Okay.
even if there is punishment, we have seen many cases of when people go to prison, discuss their war stories with their fellow criminals, and come out better prepared in order to fool the average public. And also, capital punishment, and that's another case. If we were talking about punishment, if you take capital punishment into account, I recently had another study about this. Even in countries where there are capital punishment, the crime has not significantly decreased in any matter. And if you look at certain European economies which do not have capital punishment, they have lesser crime. And this proves that there is no relation between the crime no relation between the level of crime that happens and the punishment that you get with it. It's all about the chances of whether you're caught or not. And so these economies which don't have these countries which don't have the death penalty also have a higher rate of catching criminals in the act. And so this proves out to be the major factor of people adhering to the law and order in a particular country, the probability of getting caught rather than the actual fine. And so I think that's what matters, sir.
Thanks, Siddharth. Thanks, Siddharth.
Thanks, Siddharth. Yes, Amit, you are now left with Bhumika. Please go ahead.
So, hi Bhumika, this question is pertaining to the whole discussion about one nation, one election. Of course, some of the other panelists also said that, some of the finalists also said that. But you highlighted about the money to be spent on the elections. Now, so much money is spent on the elections, but don't you think when somebody spends, somebody also earns? And when the money circulates that way, isn't that good for the overall GDP growth of the country?
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question. I do understand where this question coming from. Okay, so we need to understand that of course there are positives and the negatives to what an economy is. And economics is only about incentives. We all agree on that. But finally, we also have to agree that okay, a gain of someone is definitely a loss of something else. So in this debate, what is the topic of the debate? It is one election and one nation. So definitely it is the election and the nation which are the prime targets of today's debate, or for example, the keywords in this debate or the major stakeholders, right? So I do understand had this debate been is an election the only way out of a financial crisis, I would have agreed that two elections are definitely needed. But this debate is how efficient are these elections for the entire welfare of the country. I understand there will be a lot of money invested in the election procedure, which, for example, is still going to continue. And if you were to think about it, you would see that when you are covering the entire country, let's just say if it's a state assembly election, you are only targeting the audience of a particular state. Thus, the investment is only in a particular state, right? That creates disparity. But imagine a situation where there's an election happening for the entire country in accordance with these state assembly elections as well. So we not only invest money, but we also save. So I think the major stakeholder in this debate was one election and one nation and not the economy. And hence, I do agree that there might be some economic losses, but the kind of efficiency, the kind of money it saved is actually impeccable and does not stand in this. Thank you, sir. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you, Bhumika. Thank you, Amit. Ladies and gentlemen, if these contestants are a representation of the youth of our country, I think our future is safe. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have completed the world finale of India Inside Debate Young India Speaks 2023. Time for us to identify the winner, or rather the champion of Young India Speaks 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the world finale of India Inside Debate Young India Speaks 2023 is Shrutik Jana from Wisdom World School, Pune. Congratulations to you, Shrutik. Ms. Shruti Nabar, Siddharth, and Bhumika are all joint runners-up. Congratulations to all of them. You don't go anywhere. We have the quizzes coming up. You have been a part of India Inside before. You know how it works. We have quizzes for the junior and the senior sections. So join us for the India Inside quiz. I hope to see all of you there.